Hi, cousins. Today's episode of the podcast is called Different Shadows because today I have two amazing cousins that are dropping by the back room at the Blue Whale who are autistic. And some of you may have heard that word around, on the news or maybe with negative connotations. And being autistic is not a bad thing. It's not a scary thing. But it is a different thing. Because being neurodivergent or on the autistic spectrum means that sometimes you see the world in a little bit of a different way. Danielle Culver can be found on the Resident of Collinwood podcast a lot of times with our friend Jewel, and our buddy Bobby Lugosi has been on this podcast before, and I'm sure will make many more appearances. He's a very dear friend. Bobby is actually very well known as the autistic Dracula. So let's head down to the back room at the Blue Whale, shall we? Come on, cousins. Yay! Okay, so now we know it's recording. So what I'm going to do, you guys, is I'm calling this episode Different Shadows. Because, Dark Shadows is all about that kind of otherness. And, it's a show that a lot of people that have always felt like they don't belong, or, they've got these special interests that nobody else understands. They really connect with this show, and they feel very, different. And there's something within this show that kind of, that they understand. I can't even think, but you know what I mean. It's that So that's what that's my plan anyway. I'm calling it Different Shadows. So
I love that idea.
Yeah, I like to think of a different name, with each episode, depending on, who I'm talking to and everything. I haven't thought of one for the last one. Because yesterday I was talking with Dr. Jeff Thompson, and I don't know what I'm going to call that. He is like the Dan Curtis expert guy. He's written 3 books on Dan Curtis. And so I kind of thought, well, maybe I could call it Dan Shadows, but the conversation wasn't really, fully about Dan Curtis. So I don't know. I'm still thinking of a title for that one.
Agreed. I can't wait to watch it and see what you call it.
We'll see. We'll see. So yeah, kind of going with that kind of thing about, how Dark Shadows, the characters on Dark Shadows, a lot of them also kind of felt like they didn't really fit in with the regular world. You've got Barnabas Collins, he's got this, the secret, Chris Jennings, the werewolf, Adam, these characters that are just kind of like dropped into this kind of small town, and, they themselves are just kind of very different, but they're really like the heart of the show, So what are your thoughts, Bobby, on that?
Well, right when you asked that question, I thought, honestly, immediately of Barnabas's first scene in the diner with Maggie Evans. Because when Maggie Evans says, "There's rumors about that house is haunted," and he says, "I never listened to such rumors, much less believe them." And then she says, "That makes you quite unique in that town." But he says, "But uniqueness is not always a good thing. It sets you apart from other men." So right away, you see that you see this character who is like struggling with being different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I, and so many of the characters, the ones you mentioned, of course, but even like when I was little David Collins, I
Mm-hmm.
think,
Yeah.
you know, he's like, you know, like I mean, in one of the episodes, Victoria Winters like straight up calls him weird.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. David Collins and Victoria Winters is,
Yeah,
very different.
she's an outsider.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Characters.
Julia Hoffman, she's
Mhm.
very different. So many of the characters are very different, and I think, you know, myself being autistic and gay, and loving classic horror films, you know, which these are three things that kind of separate me from like normal civilization, and I find it so easy to relate to them, and
Mhm.
the struggles, but also the characters that are, because you have a mixture where you have some characters like Barnabas who are conflicted, but you have other characters like Nicholas Blair, who's very different but very proud of it. You know, he's
Mhm.
very, you know, so it's you have these, so it has multiple ways to relate to that, and to being different, and I think that's part of why the show is so special.
Mhm. I think so too. What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, I'd say what Bobby says, right? And yeah, like you also mentioned Adam, and like Adam, as we all know, was based on Frankenstein's monster. What's interesting is the source material also kind of has a message like that. So
Mhm.
it's interesting how Dark Shadows used that as well, but it was the same, it was different, but you know, in a good way though. And yeah, like you guys mentioned with Barnabas, Barnabas isn't your typical vampire either. He actually hates that he's a vampire, basically. He was unfortunately turned into one.
Mhm. He's very much the reluctant vampire. Before that was kind of like a mainstream kind of thing. Before Angel, before Twilight, before a lot of this stuff, it was Barnabas Collins was the original reluctant vampire.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's what's interesting is I think Twilight might have referenced Barnabas, but I'm not 100% sure because I know, like, obviously, obviously we all know his name is Collins, but weirdly Edward's last name is Cullen or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, so it could have been an homage. I don't know.
I've always thought that too.
Mhm.
I've always thought that too.
Mhm. Yeah, and one of the interesting characters in Dark Shadows, I mean, well, they're all interesting, but you have Chris Jennings, the werewolf, and what I've always found fascinating is his brother Tom is a vampire, but Chris himself is a werewolf. So you have two twin brothers who, physically they're just alike, but they're each kind of going through their own curse, their own dilemma.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I, I definitely agree, and there's something I was just thinking of, even though like, I'm thinking like there is Dracula's Daughter from 1936, where you have a vampire who wants to be cured, and like Frankenstein's monster played by Boris Karloff. He feels misunderstood, but with Dark Shadows, what makes it so different from all those other from the Universal monster movies that people often relate to in the same way is because it's a daytime soap opera, and because they have 1,225 episodes to play with. You're the show itself is able to bring so much more depth and so many more of those elements to the forefront with the characters. So you may like that element of Dracula being different. Yeah, I identify with that aspect. But with Barnabas, it's so much more prevalent because you really see the ins and outs of his character, how he feels about this situation, how he feels about that. And the same with all the other characters, because as the show goes on, yes, you have all these, eccentric, larger than life characters, but with almost all of them, you find the humanity underneath.
Mhm.
So I think it.
Mhm. And what's cool too is that all of these, monsters are all the reluctant kind. You have, Tom Jennings, who when he's turned into a vampire by Angelique, he seems to relish being a vampire.
Yeah,
He doesn't really seem like he's suffering that much. Like his
right,
poor
yeah,
brother
yeah.
Jesse's been suffering. But
Uh,
Tom seems to really kind of dig it. He really kind of like revels in that.
Right,
And
yeah.
Eve loves being evil. She just does. Eve is a pretty cool character. She's very proud of, Danielle Roger, the evilest woman that ever lived. And, she kind of does her own thing and doesn't like being told what to do. And, she would rather have any of these other men than Adam, and she just doesn't really care what the other, what Nicholas thinks about that. It's like, you know.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so all of the different characters are not necessarily all suffering, or some of them like being different, and even Barnabas at times, I think there are some moments where he does kind of revel in that power as the vampire. I think there's some moments where you can really kind of tell he gets off on this power. Well, it's like, well, if he was a man, obviously he couldn't do, such and such. And, especially in certain moments where being a vampire certainly helps the Collins family. It certainly helps Barnabas's own agenda, so there are good things and bad things about being different. It all depends on how you look at it and what the situation is.
It explores them both. It explores both, the hard part, like, will people accept me? Will even my own family accept me? As well as that part where it's like the fun element of being different. Like if you go to like a gay pride parade and everyone's has the rainbow flags, it's like fun, So it has all aspects of the experience. It has a way to relate to.
Mm-hmm. And Dark Shadows itself is fun, even in its scary moments. You know that even though there may be horrible things going on the screen, by tomorrow's episode that could all change.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily have to remain a scary situation, or maybe somebody isn't necessarily in danger, they just look like they are, and there's a cliffhanger at the end of the episode, but by the next episode everything's okay again.
Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm. And when I was talking to Jeff yesterday, he was talking about in the 1995 episodes, which I know you love, episodes where Angelique realizes that Julia is not her Hoffman. And, she locks her up and she's by herself. And you think, oh my gosh, Julia is going to die. And that is a scary moment. And it's not a supernatural thing. I mean, it's a very real thing that, this woman is trapped all alone and, she could die. Nobody can hear her. Nobody knows she's there, So that was like a very scary moment, but it ended up okay. Barnabas came and rescued her and it was okay. It was all right again.
Even with when a character dies, their actor might come back for a new role. So it's like there's always this. So it's like it could be as scary as it wants to be, but it's like you said, it's all in this. Kind of it's gonna be. It may be tragic, it may be horrifying, but it's gonna be okay too.
Right. And Daniel, I know you're a big horror fan. And what do you think it is that draws people to want to be scared, to get that thrill of being scared?
That's actually a pretty good question. Maybe it's just kind of something that some of us just have, like an instinct we have of it.
Mm-hmm. It could be that kind of fight or flight response. It gets the adrenaline going and it makes you feel like you're alive, like being on a roller coaster does.
Yeah, I could definitely see
that kind of momentary thrill,
Yeah, that actually makes sense too. I never thought about that, but that actually does sound pretty, like that could be the actual main answer,
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Bobby?
Well, I think a lot of people love being scared because it's like that thrill of like that fear, but like we said, it's like it's going to be okay, and those two things running together, I think, is what makes it so fun. Like even like when you're a little baby, what do your parents do to you? Peekaboo, or the Jack in the Box. It's like like, and I acted a haunted house. It was a prison haunted house. So it's like people love it because it's that feeling you're gonna, or a roller coaster, that you're gonna be scared. It's gonna be a scary moment, but it's like it's all gonna be okay too. And it's that, so it's like you said, it's like a ride. It's gonna be all right, but it's like it's so fun in the process.
And do you think that you feeling those experiences yourself, like watching Dark Shadows, do you think that's helped you in your career as a haunter at haunted houses?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. One in kind of like, giving the experience, like you kind of see like, is this group scared or is this group more like laughing? And you kind of like on Dark Shadows, you'll have like the characters run a gamut where you could kind of adapt the character to whatever situation. And then two, I have learned so much from Dark Shadows about if something goes wrong, you just keep going. And that I'll never forget it. It was at my friend's home haunt, Horror on Highland, and he was experimenting with having music running throughout the haunted house, and he was trying to have it in each room where we had speakers in every room. And he said, "Okay, just attach your cell phone to the Wi-Fi, and you could have music going." And so I didn't know it was kind of last minute, like Dark Shadows. And so I put on I put on the theme for Bram Stoker's Dracula because I knew that was a good like 40 minutes of music. And then wouldn't you know it, right when the customers were in, an ad came on.
No.
So I just stayed in character. I didn't even I acted like it wasn't happening. I just stayed in character. I did my I am Dracula. And they didn't say anything. They didn't notice. They didn't laugh at it. They didn't even notice it was going on. And I learned that from Dark Shadows.
Wow. Well, some people think ads are pretty scary, so.
Right, yeah.
I wonder if it was like a commercial for toothpaste or something. You could have played that up with your vein,
Right, yeah. Right.
9 out of 10 vampires recommend,
Right. Well, the creature from the Black Lagoon did guest star in the Colgate Comedy Hour, so there you go. Right?
Very cool. Very cool. What do you think are some of the scary? Hi, Hazelnut. Hi, baby.
Hey,
what do you think are some of the scariest moments on Dark Shadows?
I think one of the scariest moments is when Maggie Evans is escaping from the old house. I remember watching it the first time, and it was late at night. It was like 1:30 or something in the morning. I had been watching these episodes. I had just got volume 2 on DVD. And so I was like late at night, and it was just so thrilling. Like, because you don't know, is she going to get out? Is she going to escape? Like, because you sort of know, like, well, Barnabas is this incredible character. If she gets out, that will expose Barnabas, and I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know if that's going to happen. But Maggie Evans seems to be this important. At the time, I didn't know how important she was, but I know she seemed like a fairly important character. So I really didn't know what was going to happen. And it was that thrill of like, how is she going to get out of here? And the way they film it is so cool. Like, they make the most of that set space and that soundstage because it really feels like a labyrinth that's coming from the old house. They did super duper good with that, and that was just like thrilling, like seeing if she's going to come out. I also found the scene where Laura Collins is trying to bring David Collins into the fire. I thought that was horrifying, because Laura Collins, she's a phoenix, so this is just the most normal thing to do. Like, why wouldn't you bring your son into the fire? That's what I'm born to do. So like it wasn't, but then of course you have Victoria Winters going, no, like, you can't do that, and it was like terrifying because it again, like, you saw every character's point, so it wasn't like for each character they were doing what they thought was right, and I thought that was another really terrifying moment.
Yeah. Daniel, what do you think are some of the scariest moments of Dark Shadows?
I would say like when there's that nightmare, and they're like when the closet opens and the door, I mean, and there's like that skull thing. I know, like,
Well,
it
the
didn't
dream
really scare
curse.
me. It didn't really
Yeah.
scare me, but I could see like a lot of people getting frightened by that, you know.
Hmm.
And yeah, I would say Bobby's one with the Phoenix is good too, because you know, like there's also the whole, are they really gonna kill a kid, you know? Because you know, like
Hmm.
killing a kid is like a forbidden thing, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'd also say
Yeah.
well, maybe not really scary, but one I say was really good is like when you first see the spirits, because for a '60s show, that looked pretty good, you know, because like
Mhm.
you know, like there were for those that don't know, and I'm sure there's not that many that don't, but there was no green screens or like holograms back then, yeah.
Yeah, they did a oh, what was it called? I'm blanking on the name, but they had a different kind of process that they used, and one of the first instances of that was with the ghost of Josette coming out of the portrait, and I know quite a few people who, when they saw that scene for the first time, they got goosebumps, you know, because they said it looked actually like ghostly.
Yeah, they did, like I said, they did a pretty good job with that. Like that, I could see why people might have gotten chills from that, you know.
Hmm.
Oh, it's I think it's called Chromo Key. Like,
Yes, thank
yeah.
you. I was blanking on the name. I'm like, I know this
No.
word.
But yeah,
Yes.
no problem. But yeah, the way they do, especially in like those, like when Josette walks out, the
Mhm.
figure of Josette walks out of her own portrait, like that is, and is walking
Mhm.
through the grounds of Collinwood, like it
Mhm.
is so eerie. And and then the special effect, they nail it, which is amazing, because this isn't a movie that they could like focus all day. We're gonna work on this special effect. Like, no, this is just this is just like part of it. You know, this is just we have no
Mhm.
time to figure it out, but they nail it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
that's true.
I have to. I think a lot of the for me a lot of the scariest moments are earlier in the series, like when because I feel like the earlier episodes have like a certain. But then there's the great scary moments later too. So, but like when they first when Elizabeth and Roger find the seaweed in
Mhm.
the room in the East Wing,
Film
and
play. Yeah.
and they're talking about it, and Elizabeth says, um, "Roger, have you seen, even when you were younger, something that you could possibly call a ghost?" And the look
Mhm.
on Roger's face when he's like, "I don't know."
Mhm.
You know, like that, it leaves so much to your
Yeah.
imagination.
The one that got me in those early episodes is the when Vicky hears the crying and she goes downstairs and you can see there's nobody there, and it's never actually explained who or what is crying. But that was creepy. I mean, that just kind of
Yeah.
gave me goosebumps. And she's going downstairs, she's all going to, like, the drawing room and everything, and the sound is everywhere and nowhere, and you can't trace it. There's nobody visible, and you're just wondering, like, who or what is this? And it's never actually explained. They never really say, kind of what that was. And I thought that was one of the scariest kind of moments.
I agree. It is so eerie because you don't know, you know, like,
It's just like, well, was it Elizabeth actually crying, or was it the ghost of Josette, or
yeah,
we don't know.
we don't know. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So speaking of things we don't know, what is one unanswered question from the show that you wish had been answered on the series?
All right. I I have two because I feel like the first one's so obvious. Like everyone, we all want to know who is the real parents of Victoria Winters.
Hmm.
We all want to know that. But the other one I have is, how did Julia Hoffman first get interested in vampires, and how did, because she says that I she like implies that she spent years and years like trying to find this. So I
Hmm.
would that's another question that I would have for it, is how did she get involved with vampires?
Yeah,
Hmm.
those are good ones. I know this is more like the real show, but apparently no one knows the actual answer why the show got canceled. So maybe that'll get answered someday.
Well, actually, if you If you watch Terror at Collinwood, which is an excellent podcast, Penny Dreadful's excellent podcast. I love it. It's fabulous. She did an episode with, I think it was with Mary O'Leary, who was talking about like the end of the show. And there were, quite a few different factors. And I think Dan Curtis had kind of finished with it and wanted to go do movies and things like that. And he had actually let Jonathan Frid out of his contract. And I don't know why it ended so abruptly, but yeah, that's I guess the short answer for why it ended, even though, ratings were still good and everything.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Actually, I could be wrong. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think Elizabeth Stoddard was actually confirmed to be Victoria's mom. But I could be wrong about that.
That's what they say, and that's what Joan Bennett even said in a interview, that she was Victoria's mother. But we never really kind of got to see that. And what I always wondered is, if Elizabeth Collins Stoddard was really Victoria's mother, the time to tell her would have been when she married Jeff Clark, I would think. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, I think that'd be a good time too. But I actually thought like when Victoria was thinking about quitting, that would have been a good time to tell her too.
Yeah. But it just kind of struck me. It's like, okay, so after everything that she'd been through with this family and everything, and here she is going to get married to this guy. You would have you would have thought that okay, getting married, that this woman would say, oh, I'm your mother or something. I don't know. That just seemed like that would have been really like the time that she should have told her, if they were going to.
Gee, Catherine, I really don't know, because we still have like Elizabeth Collins family pride to contend with too.
Mm-hmm. True.
So I mean, if there was ever a moment, I think you're right that would have been the time to do it. But I wonder if let's say we accepted that, just for fun, that we accepted Elizabeth Collins Stoddard as Victoria's mother.
Mm-hmm.
Would her family pride allowed her to say it? And I just, because I mean, think of how desperate the situation with Jason McGuire was when she admitted that she killed Paul Stoddard.
Mm-hmm.
It was either, in that moment, it was either, do I lose my daughter or do I swallow my family pride? It was that was the chromo. So I almost feel like for Elizabeth to admit that about Vicky would have to be another perilous situation, where it was like where Vicky would either die or find out this information.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you guys think her father was?
Oh, I don't know. What was his name? Ned Calder? Is that the one that they had talked about in the early episodes? The one that wanted to marry Elizabeth? Maybe him. I don't know.
Well, that's a good question, but I kind of wonder if maybe it's and I know this might seem like a simple answer, but what if it's like a character we've never seen before,
Could be, because I mean they made such a big thing about Betty Hanscom, and that her relative worked at Collinwood, so it may be one of the Hanscoms that we never saw or learned anything about.
Yeah, that's a good point,
It really could have been, because we don't, because before, Collinwood was closed up, Elizabeth, they were having parties at Collinwood. Elizabeth Collins Stoddard knew a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also the theory that she wasn't Liz's daughter, but she was Paul Stoddard's daughter, and that's why Elizabeth brought her to Collinwood to kind of keep that secret, because that had been her husband, and it would have been another scandal. So we don't know.
Yeah, and she'd still be Carolyn's half sister too.
Mm-hmm.
You could see why she wanted to take care of her and make sure she was okay.
Yep. And by the time we actually see Paul Stoddard, when he comes back during the Leviathan, of course Vicky's not there. So it's not like, he would have known anything about it,
Right, yeah.
He wasn't there when Vicky was there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys think it's kind of fun that like that big mystery is never solved? Like, because then you could always speculate.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean there are so many things that really lend itself to fan fiction, that people write about. They write about what happened to Chris and Sabrina. If Chris was ever cured of being a werewolf, they write about what happened to Vicky back in the past after she went back for the last time. Because I mean, I don't buy that the whole Leviathan thing, that oh yeah, Jeb killed Victoria Winters or whatever that thing was. I don't think so. I think that was a scare tactic by the Leviathans. I think that they had, found out about, Vicky going back to the house, and so they used that against Barnabas. Just like the thing with Josette. I don't think they ever actually came into contact with Josette. I think that was just a ploy to get Barnabas to do what they wanted them, to do the Leviathan's bidding. That's what I think.
I think so too, because if you don't see the body, you don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. And those Leviathans were pretty devious, so I wouldn't put anything past them. Yeah, so
Do you think the Burke Devlin is still out there?
I think so. I think so. I mean, Burke was pretty tough. I think what I think is, I think he survived the plane crash. I think he got amnesia. And I think he was, living in the jungle, for several years until maybe a rock fell on his head or something. And he suddenly remembered who he was. And he's like, oh, I have to go home and I got to go to Vicky. And then he got there. And of course, Vicky wasn't there anymore. And, a lot of the things had changed because, it had been several years.
Uh-huh.
And I think maybe he realized that, maybe there wasn't anything for him in Collinsport anymore. And he, maybe left for more adventures or something.
I could definitely see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree.
Yeah. Now, speaking of, fan fiction, you both have written things. You're both writers. What storyline of Dark Shadows do you think you would have liked to maybe added to or change some things from a writer's point of view? Bobby?
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I would really want to explore, like I said, like Julia Hoffman's origins.
Mm-hmm.
How? Because she literally says, "I've been waiting for you for a long time, a very long time."
Mm-hmm.
And just those words that just feeded my imagination when I first saw that. Like what do you mean? What research have you done? Because she comes to that conclusion of vampire much faster than anyone else, But it feels like, it doesn't feel like in House of Dark Shadows, when they figure it out, you kind of get, okay, this is because they got to move the plot along. When Grayson Hall says it, you believe it. You believe that she's really been researching it. You believe that she spent all this, and also she's kind of from the beginning, she seems like a very eccentric lady. Another one of those, different characters that you could relate to, and so who's had this this strange passion of trying to learn about vampires, and you just kind of believe it. So I would like to explore her origins. I was always, that's when Laura Parker was writing her books. I was always hoping oh, I hope she does the Julia Hoffman origins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, I would say that's a good one as well. And yeah, I wouldn't mind exploring. Yeah, like you guys were talking about the Vicky's parents actually are. But another one, I think would be interesting to explore is maybe because I know there was a canceled arc where, as you know, Satan came by. I know they called him a different name, to kind of go around that. But
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, but yeah, I would actually explore that because because I guess hell was gonna walk the earth, but Dan Curtis backed out because of controversy.
Mm-hmm. I think it would have been interesting to see some of the scenes going on in hell, like especially after Nicholas got sent back there, or Angelique or something. I have this theory that I think Diablos punished Angelique by like making her answer phones in hell or something. Put her on customer service,
Oh my God.
I actually thought about writing a skit about that. I don't know, maybe one day. But I'm a
Oh, you
telephone
should.
operator and I work in customer service, and I thought, that I could see him punishing her, by putting her on customer service. Mm-hmm. And maybe Nicholas Flair was telemarketing or something. I don't know.
Oh my God, yeah.
Well, I have a very dear friend, my friend Fish the magician. He's a magician, and I've known him over 20 years. He's wonderful. I love him and adore him. When he worked in telemarketing, they would get to choose like fake names to introduce themselves as, and he picked Nicholas Flair.
Well, I could see it because he's so charismatic, and like, what a like, this is a curse. I'm going to put your talent to the worst possible thing you could do.
Yep. So who knows? Maybe one day I will write a skit about that or something. We'll see.
Well, I have a question for both of you guys. What characters, not necessarily your favorite character, but what characters do you guys feel that you relate to the most?
For me, it's kind of a twofer, because especially the last couple of years, Angelique, definitely. I wrote a whole album about it. And the story behind that. So, yeah, Angelique. But also I think somewhat Maggie Evans. I think I can relate to her somewhat in a way, especially how she was just kind of like kind of taken from her everyday life and just kind of put in the situation where she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know at times who she was. And being told kind of one thing and thinking, no, that's not the truth. This is the truth. But being, kind of gaslit about it. And that really messes with your mind. And, so, I mean, I could see Maggie Evans too. I mean, but definitely Angelique. What about you, Daniel? Daniel? Did we lose you? Hello? Uh-oh. Is he there?
Daniel, you there?
Did we lose him?
No, Catherine, don't be scared, because this does happen sometimes. Like, I was on a podcast the other night and they lost somebody.
Oh.
What?
I don't know. I can't see. I'm afraid to touch the screen because I don't want to.
I know.
Daniel, if you're with us, give
us a sign. Tap 3 times if you hear us.
I don't know. Maybe we're alone. Okay. Well, I guess maybe we could wait for him to come back, or we can continue on in true Dark Shadows fashion.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll pop up from a secret door or something. I don't know.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, he's back. I hear him.
Hey! Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. So now, so it's your turn to answer the question now.
Okay, I would say honestly, in the most I could probably relate to is actually Barnabas himself, because like he's different. Like you know, as you know, because well, as Bobby knows, like, because I'm autistic too, so like I know it's like to not be like accepted in this world, so I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think everybody can relate to Barnabas a little bit in that way. I mean, especially those of us who are, neurodivergent. I think we can all kind of see ourselves in Barnabas. I think that there's a lot of characters that maybe it's like certain aspects or certain things that you can kind of go, oh yeah, that's so relatable, but not really the character itself, but just maybe something that they say or do or how they react in a certain situation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I agree. Even like I started watching it when like the first episode I ever saw, I was about 8 years old. And it wasn't David Collins, it was Jameson. But like having like that, like the little boy on the show who's always exposed to these like horrifying like experiences and
Mm-hmm.
and sees ghosts and no one believes him. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's relatable. Like I
Yeah.
honestly feel like it was so brilliant to have to have a child on, because there's a few periods here and there, but there's almost always a child actor on the series.
Mm-hmm.
Almost always, and I feel like it's so smart of them, because it's like we're the child or the child in all of us to relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even like I have a baby picture. I'll have to send it to you. I have a baby picture of me, and there's a ghost in the background where you could tell.
You
Yeah,
showed me that.
yeah. You could tell that the TV's turned off, and you could tell, but there's an image of an old lady on the
Mm-hmm.
screen. And it's like, this is like, my gosh, if this is like a David Collins baby picture, like, so
Yeah.
and also like the fact that he was so with him, it was because he was living in on the house on the hill. They don't explain why he's not going to regular school. You just kind of feel it's because it's a Collins family, and they
Mm-hmm.
later on in the 1991 series, they implied that he started a fire. But he's learning. He's literally by himself. He has no. So with autism, I definitely relate to that, the feeling of like loneliness and feeling like you don't fit in. And then Carolyn tells the same story of like she crap. What's her friend's name?
Which one? Donna? Was that the one that
No,
got eaten by a werewolf?
no. Remember when Andy? Was it Andy?
Maybe. That sounds
We-
familiar.
Yeah, where Carolyn is talking about, it's the episode when David Collins has been seeing Sarah, and she talks about she used to have a friend that would go to her on the beach, and
Yeah.
the last time the last time she saw him, like she gave it like her seashell.
Mm-hmm.
It was like you got the impression that she had like the same kind of like lonely childhood, and she even said, "I don't know if he was real or not."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Charles Ellis would know. I should ask him. He knows everything.
Uh,
He's the Walking Dark Shadows encyclopedia. Him about that. Yeah. But sometimes I relate to Victoria Winter. Sometimes I don't understand what's going on at all. Totally clueless. I'm looking for a pen. Everybody else is off doing their own thing. I'm looking for a pen.
They are hard to come by, you don't know how relatable that episode is until you can't find one.
Well, we just moved into this house, 5 months or so ago, and I grabbed things from we had several junk drawers, and so I just shoved them in boxes and labeled them junk drawers. So anytime I need to find a pen, it's got to be in one of the junk drawer boxes, because everything that was in the junk drawer, there had to be pens in there. And sure enough, there's one in the hall closet labeled a junk drawer, and it's full of eyeglasses, reading glasses and pens. So if we ever need them, we know where to find them.
That was a smart way to label that. Like that. Well, that's better than my question mark,
I don't know.
and then I was thinking about the other eccentric character, like Carl Collins is like kind of like a
Oh
very,
yeah.
and he's an example of a character who's like out there but loves it, who loves
Yeah.
being this practical
He's kind of
joker.
in his own world, Carl is.
Yeah.
He doesn't really kind of notice what's going on. And then when he does, he's kind of shocked by it. He's just kind of like doing his own thing. And, he's eccentric, but he's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he really loved Pansy, and I think Pansy really loved him.
You know what I'm thinking, guys, as we're talking about this, about the, of the relatability of the characters of being different.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that happens to the characters as like sort of a punishment or a bad situation is being sent off to Wincliffe. The idea of being like, you're so different that you're gonna be alone. So I think that really taps into that theme too, because like when Elizabeth, like she gets sent off to Wincliffe when she's trying to tell everybody, no, I know I'm going to be buried alive. I know this, but no one believes it, and she gets sent off by herself. David Collins, when he's having trouble, what's the threat? You're going to be sent away. So I think it really does run a gamut of seeing the how hard it is to be different, the pride that you can have in being different, but also that real fear of like, could the consequences be even more severe? Like the feeling of isolation.
Yeah. Well, look what happened with Jenny Collins. They locked her up. They didn't send her away, but they locked her up to keep her secret. They were ashamed of her. And instead of, helping her, they kept her isolated. They took her children from her. And it was very cruel the way that they treated Jenny, even though they kind of made it seem like, oh, but it wasn't. And, we just didn't want a scandal and this and that. It was very cruel. To isolate her. And I think it probably made the mental distress that Quentin caused even worse, being isolated like that. And the only person that she had was Beth, and Beth was a servant, and she was there to take care of Jenny. And the fact that, it was kind of Jenny's downfall that her closest friend, happened to be the one that her husband had his eye on.
Yeah.
And that's what led to Jenny's death, and it's very tragic and sad. I think one of the most kind of heartbreaking scenes is that scene with Jenny in the old house. Do you remember when Barnabas fixes her up in the old house and he puts her in that beautiful purple dress and they brush her hair and she's lovely?
Yeah.
And that was just such a sweet kind of a heartbreaking moment. This lovely woman and what this family had done to her.
Yeah, she'd only been given the chance, like a chance to let's accept you as is, and she would have done wonderful. Even I'm thinking Amy Jennings, when we first meet her, she's in Wincliffe, isolated.
And she really kind of thrived at Collinwood, besides the whole playing the game and all of that sort of thing. But you can see in those moments when she's being taught her lessons with David and she's playing with David and she's just a regular little kid. And it's like, that's all she needed.
Yeah.
She just needed to be with another little kid.
Right. Yeah. And I felt like you and me, you and me are so close friends. And I feel like we're very, different people. We found each other. And it's almost like one of the themes of the show is like the different people, they find each other,
Well, it's like I was telling Danielle earlier, people come into your life for a reason. I really believe that. That everyone that you meet in life is there for a reason, and that everything that happens to you in life is either a blessing or a lesson.
You're right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what I think.
You're absolutely right, yeah.
So what were some of your favorite, speaking of lessons, what were your favorite kind of lessons on Dark Shadows where maybe somebody kind of learns the error of their ways, or that karma comes for them? Do you have any kind of favorite moments like that?
It kind of seems like that happens to Angelique.
Mhm.
Actually quite a few times. Now I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like I really like the walling up of Trask. I think that's a great scene, when Barnabas walls up Trask. And Judith walling up Gregory Trask in Quentin's room, that
Oh,
was a great moment.
it's so satisfying too, because it's like a callback, but they earned it. Like they really, really earned it, and they do it different. Like the glee of how happy John Bennett is to like let them have it.
Well, you and
Yeah.
I did some recording for that, Bobby. I remember
Yes,
I sent you some.
yes, I got to get back on that.
We
Yes.
didn't do anything with it yet. Mhm. But yeah, if you any videos that you have or that you want to send that
Wonderful.
you've done for like Dark Shadows stuff, send them to me because I don't have TikTok anymore, so I'll put them on the podcast because
Oh,
yeah, I'm looking for submissions. So far, the only ones who have submitted anything have been you. My dear friend Amanda Desiree has sent me some of her songs that she did at conventions. Richard Halpern sent me links to Baby Dark Shadows. Which you have to see, by the way, they're so funny. And
well,
and Guy Haynes sent me some video, and so I'm still hoping for more video submissions and things to kind of get that out there. And Daniel, if you ever feel like doing any kind of like fan videos or anything like that, send them my way.
Okay, I'll do that if I make any.
Yeah.
I understand not having TikTok anymore and everything. Actually, that's the bad part about TikTok. Like, if we were making, actually, we couldn't put this on TikTok anyway, except in parts because it's too long already. Because for some reason, you can only do 10 minutes. But if it's a live, we'd have to actually watch what we say. Like, you can't even say kill on there.
Yeah, very restricted. I I
oh, it,
I haven't done any TikTok lives, but you have, Bobby. You've done several.
oh my! One time it was wild. It was I think this is why. One time I was holding an action figure up, like a collectible
Mhm.
Dracula action figure, and it didn't like kick me off, but it stopped letting new people watch it because they said I was advertising for a product that I really was. I think,
Oh,
and that's the only thing I could think of was I was holding it up too long. That's the only thing I could possibly think it was. Because me, I keep my language pretty solid.
nope.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
still pretty weird, though. Like, I could see some weird rule like that, but that still seems really weird, though.
I know. I was completely surprised by it.
Mhm. Well, you both have YouTube channels. Both of you, Daniel has one called Magic Dove, and then you have Lugosi Theater. How have you found that? How have you found connecting with other people, just on social media or through YouTube or anything like that for this fandom? I mean, has it surprised you that you've been able to connect with other fans of Dark Shadows online, and it's like, oh, there is somebody out there that that's like me, or that thinks that I the same way I do about this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, you go first, Daniel.
Okay, I would say, yeah, I actually have found some. Actually, to be honest, I found out about Dark Shadows through Jules Sains, shout out to him.
Mhm.
But, because of that, I actually have found other connections, like, with, like the people he usually has, like, Patrick McRae
And Alan.
and Alan.
Yeah, Alan Gallant, and yeah, a lot of people. And I'm hoping to have Jewel on here soon. I was going to have him on earlier, but I was actually hoping that for Jewel and Alan, because I wasn't originally going to do this podcast alone. I was going to have somebody with me, and I was, thinking maybe he would kind of take the reins on that. But no, it's just me. So yeah, I'm hoping to do that soon. Hopefully, I'll get them soon.
Okay, that's understandable. And honestly, yeah, Jewel would be a good person to have as like the
Mhm.
co-host if you did a Dark Shadows podcast.
Yeah, and I've been on his show I think 4 or 5 times now. I've done that, and he's very knowledgeable about the show. So but yeah, I'd like to have him on an episode at least. And I want to have Alan on, and there's a lot of people I want to have on, all kinds of people. It's just trying to find the time and schedule. And well, it's like the whole thing that I wanted to do a tribute to the Collinsport players. And I thought, okay, I'll have one episode of that. And it's like, well, better make it 2 episodes. Well, now it's kind of become this thing where it's like, I think this is going to be like a podcast long series long thing, like however long this thing lasts, is we'll just kind of keep doing, and talking about the Collinsport players, because when you think about it, they were formed in 1984. Laura Brody formed the Collinsport players in 1984. So for 40 years you've had all of these people come and go and everything, and trying to track down as many of those as you can, and it's like herding cats. It's definitely going to be a project.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of things that I want to do with this channel that I haven't really kind of done much of yet. I sang one of my Dark Shadow songs on the first episode, and I keep meaning to do more of that. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do more of that. But I'm busy with work, and I'm working on a new album of Dark Shadows inspired music. I'm working on an album all about the kidnapping of Maggie Evans. So I'm working on that now. So trying to find time for that. It's just trying to find time for everything.
Yeah, I could see that being an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you're doing wonderful, Catherine. This podcast it's you get so many wonderful guests. The conversation, like it's warm and inviting. It honestly feels like I'm hanging out at the Blue Whale.
Good. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
Because my Dark Shadows family is so important to me. And 20 years of, going to conventions and just hanging out in the lobby late at night, with your friends and just talking and chatting, or, when I would go to Seaview. And sometimes we'd be up very early in the morning, and we'd be sitting, there'd be a fire in the fireplace in the sunroom, and, just sitting on the couch and just talking into like the wee hours of the morning, sometimes all night, and watching the sun come up over the ocean. I did that before.
Just like David Collins.
Yeah. That was incredible. And that experience in itself was like a once in a lifetime kind of thing. It's so incredible that, I got to go to this house, several times. I got to sleep in this house. I had paranormal experiences in this house, and
You cooked in the house.
I cooked in the house. Yes. Yes, I cooked in the house. And I remember on my first visit there, I made a wonderful lunch with my dear friends, Walter Down and Helen Samaras, and I'm hoping to have them on soon. And you are going to love them, Bobby. If you don't know them, you will love them, and they will love you.
Groovy.
Yeah, I can't wait to introduce you to so many people. And, that's another reason for this podcast too, is to introduce my Dark Shadows family to each other, because, there are so many people who, maybe they've heard the names, but they've never, met the people, or they don't know many people in the fandom. And, it's like, hey, we're all one big happy family. So why not introduce you to each other?
Because, like I said, like I went to the 2007 Dark Shadows convention, but I was there with my mom, and we didn't know anybody, and so I didn't really like start making connections until after the convention. Mm-hmm. And I remember I had a MySpace, and I saw there was these there was a profile for Barnabas Collins and a Jason McGuire profile. I was like, who? What? and that's that's how I discovered this incredible online community for Dark Shadows. Mm-hmm. And I remember going on Jonathan Frid's website. Mm-hmm. And he had this kind of it wasn't like a message, it was like a wall where people would comment on there, and he would respond back, Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it's been this amazing journey of discovering this this Dark Shadows community, because I went to the convention, but like I said, I was so young, I didn't really know anybody, and then just kind of meeting all these wonderful people through online. And I am so excited for the convention this year to meet all these wonderful people in person.
Yeah, you are going to have the best, and I'm going to make sure you have the best time too.
Aw, thank you.
I'm going to introduce you to so many people, and it's going to be great. What are some things that you wish you had known at your first Dark Shadows convention?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess before I went there, just how friendly everybody was, because I was like shy. I was like, I wasn't even 21 years old yet, I was like a little nerd, so I couldn't even go like, because I know like a lot of times like people hang out at the bar afterwards and stuff. I couldn't do that yet, and I mean, I know how friendly everyone is and how it worked, because there was the first time meeting the Dark Shadows fandom. It was my first convention ever. I didn't know how anything worked. So I'm so excited for this. And now I my wonderful friend Catherine's going to be with me. It's going to be terrific.
Yeah. And Daniel, you haven't been to any conventions, and so in a way, I want to try to bring the convention to you. I wanna try to introduce you to more people, and help bring you out of your shell a little bit, and help you to get to know some people.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of wonderful, friendly, great people in the Dark Shadows fandom, and this will be the 5th episode of this podcast, so I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are people that I've known over 20 years that are just incredible, and I want to share them with you guys, and I want to share them with the world, because they're fabulous. They're talented at what they do. I mean, I know so many wonderfully talented people, and so many just genuine good people. And I think that's one thing, that if people really don't go to a lot of conventions, or they're not really into fandoms, they might think, oh gee, they're all weirdos. Well, we are, but we're friendly weirdos. Yeah, we're friendly weirdos, and we don't bite. Well, okay, not all of us bite. I mean, I'm sure there are a few that do.
Oh no. Yeah, well, that's what happens when we bite. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have any more questions for me, for each other? Is there anything you guys want to add?
Not that I can think of.
I want to comment on what you just said, Catherine. Because it just amazes me how you just like sort of wrapped up the theme of tonight's podcast, friendly weirdos.
Yeah.
And because I'll admit I'm a weirdo,
I'm a weirdo.
Yeah, we all. I mean, like the best.
We are the weirdos, mister.
We are the weirdos, and the best people are. The best people are, and that's like, and I think that's what's so one of the experience of watching Dark Shadows and meeting people who are into it too. You realize like, yeah, I may be a little different from the people who I immediately know, like in my regular life, but that's okay. And not only is it okay, it's wonderful. And there's people out there like me that I could join with and have these amazing friendships.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Now, one question I just thought of is, hey, you're going to be going to the convention this fall. What would be some great, maybe autism-friendly tips for convention goers?
I think if you have sensory issues, maybe bring some noise-canceling headphones with you. It's even if you don't use them, they're always good to have just in case. Maybe find, if you get overwhelmed, maybe find when you get there, find what's a space that maybe not a lot of people are at. If it's like the lobby in the hotel, like a little, just like a little downtime space, and find out where it is first when you get there, and not. And I mean, if you're having anxiety later on, of course, try to seek it out. But it'd be better to find a place first. That way, you know you have it if you need it.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm gonna make sure I get you a room key when I check in, so you've got a place if you need to duck out. You'll know you can go to the room.
And then maybe even like having like a little stim thing with you that you could kind of play around with in your pocket. And then too, I think to kind of know that all the people that you're going to be with, they are super into what you're into too. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the big ones is, like being autistic. Sometimes if I'm going on and on about Dracula or Dark Shadows, sometimes you feel you're with people who like, they don't understand. They might be nice and everything, but they don't really know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. At a convention, they will know what you're talking about, and they'll be interested in what they're going to say.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And one thing I would suggest for you is, I don't know about you, but I'm an extremely picky eater. So one thing might be to have a list of things that you don't eat, because if you're with someone and you have to try to find somewhere to eat and you want to know, hey, this person can't eat certain things, it's good to have a list right there.
Yeah. That's really good, because it's hard to think of everything offhand,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and allergies too. Any kind of food allergies or anything else that you may be allergic to, make sure you've got that written down somewhere. Make sure you've got any kind of medications with you that are easily accessible. Because maybe if you're, say, on the bus trip to the house, and you don't have a certain medication with you, that might not be a good thing. So I mean, if you need any kind of medicine, EpiPen, whatever you may need, for anybody, not just anyone who's autistic, but anybody who needs anything like that, make sure you've got it with you.
Because even if you don't think you're going to be up there that late, it never hurts to have it with you on you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Always be prepared.
Always be prepared.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I guess I will wrap this up then, guys. And it's been so wonderful talking to both of you. And it's always a pleasure.
Wonderful. I've had so much fun, Catherine.
Yeah, me too.
Good. Yay. I'm glad we got you out of your shell a bit today, Daniel, because I think this is the most I've heard you talk in a while, because I watch you on Jewel all the time. And I think, they're not letting him talk, So I let you talk.
You did great, Daniel.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, you guys have a good evening, and we'll talk later. And thank you again so much for doing this with me.
Always happy to.
Okay. You have a good night now. Bye.
See you.
I'm going to hit stop.
He really is a scoundrel. I'm strictly out of bounds. Yet I'm confounded by the way he makes me feel. Now he's back in town, and I'm affected, I have found, by the sound of his music and his sex appeal. No, I'm a good girl and I care for his wife, both literally and emotionally. There's no place for Quentin Collins in my life. He'll never get what he wants from me. If I do not resist him, what will become of me? Jenny Collins is my friend.
I'm Charles Delaware Tate. I'm here to paint a portrait. It was commissioned last year. I've just gotten here. I'm known to be fashionably late. This commission was a godsend, it's true. I was living in a dustbin, eating newspaper stew. A starving artist no more. I've fans in Europe by the score. Two, I've discovered I've a talent no one else can do. Whatever I draw or paint comes true. This is an inner monologue. You didn't hear that part. Let's cut unnecessary dialogue. When can I start? Mr. Collins, with my portrait, you'll be the envy of your friends. In all my social circles, I'm known for working with my hands. Of course I'm not pushy, let me position you just so.
This has crossed the seas, just as I have crossed the centuries. This is your music. Listen to it, and let the past fade into nothing.
I am Josette, but I'm someone else too. Why can't I remember?
You have always been Josette Collins, no matter what anyone says. You have always been Josette Collins.
Maggie Evans. That's who I am. You could kill me, but you'll never change that. I will never stop being Maggie Evans.
Soon the sun will rise, but soon it will set again. You will be my bride, and after tonight you will never remember who you were.
Let me go. Please. Please. Let me go.
I want the life he can give me. What would we live on? Your bitterness? No, I'd rather eat in that large house on a cliff by the sea. Our childhood days are long gone. I can't keep waiting for your dreams. We've had our happiness when we were young, when everything was still possible. And I did love you then, yes. Oh yes, I remember it well. You told me I was the fairest thing you ever saw once. And one day we'd have our own service just for us. How the wind whips round in Wuthers, or the house on Widow's Hill. I must marry another, although I love you still. Bramwell, you're a pauper, not a penny to your name. Perhaps one day we'll be together, if we can find a way. I know the kind of life I want. I know I'll never find it with you. But while we're here alone in the dark, there's something else we can do. Don't be gentle, frighten me, threaten me. Was it good for you? I beg you, don't be gentle. Here we go for round two. Oh, you know me so well, better than I know myself. And the demons in me are in league with you. But I won't have it, just get out. Every minute I live, I'm yours. Every breath you take is mine. It's not exactly how the story goes, but we're making the best of this storyline. How the wind whips round in Wuthers, or the house on Widow's Hill. I must marry another, although I love you still. Bramwell, you're a pauper, not a penny to your name. Perhaps one day we'll be together, if we can find a way.
Welcome home, cousin. Welcome.
The Back Room at the Blue Whale is a Dark Shadows podcast.